Hi, Howard.
Hey, Wendy.
It's cold here.
We're in Las Vegas.
You wouldn't know it to see the snow falling.
So where are we going?
Let's go somewhere warm.
Okay, where's that?
It's going to be the Maldives.
The Maldives.
Yes, a first ever trip for us to the Maldives.
Let's go.
Let's do it fast.
Flying eastbound, we flew from Las Vegas to San Francisco. That took 90 minutes. Next, we flew from San Francisco to Zurich. That took almost 11 hours. Finally, we flew from Zurich to Malé in the Maldives. That also took almost 11 hours. Arrangements and payments for this final leg of your journey are arranged by your resort, and you will be responsible for reimbursing your resort host.
We knew during our planning for this trip that we could fly one of three classes of service on each of the long-distance flights: economy, premium economy, or business class.
Here are the 5 lowest round-trip travel quotes per person from a major travel site on March 4th. The lowest economy fare is $1,439. The lowest premium economy fare is $3,599. The business class fare is $6,696. That's about $5,250 higher than economy and almost $3,100 higher than premium economy. You may have noticed that the previous air travel class charges were for the dry season. The Maldivian Republic is equatorial and is found a few degrees north of the equator. So even the term dry is a bit overstated. Less wet and less cloudy might be a better description, but it is the high season in the Maldives.
The air travel fares are only slightly lower during the wet season. This does make air travel a slightly better bargain, and it does lower the cost of the higher fare categories.
Just how wet is the wet season? We're not weather experts, but we have watched some YouTube videos produced in the Maldives during the wet season. We've chosen to skip that part of the year, but you may feel differently. Again, feel free to you be you.
Just remember, dry season, peak travel, higher airfares across all classes of service. Wet season, off-peak travel, lower airfares across all classes of service.
Looking at the historical purchase data for both dry and wet seasons reflects what you might expect. First, the closer you are to your travel date, the higher the pricing. Conversely, the farther away, the lower the pricing. Second, there are some peaks and valleys. Peaks result in higher airfares and are to be avoided. Valleys are the best, where bargains are to be had.
It's difficult to predict peaks and valleys. Oil prices affect airfares. General economic conditions affect airfares. So much can affect airfares that the only advice is to purchase early and hope nothing too crazy happens in the world or world finance.
Unfortunately, purchasing early entails its own brand of risk. Airlines do change their schedules. In fact, they do so continuously. They change equipment, which can affect the number and availability of seats in each class of service. They change arrival and departure times. An arrival that produces sufficient time to change planes in a foreign country today may not tomorrow. So you do have the risk you might have to change your travel plans because your air carrier changed theirs. Be prepared.
The historical data for business class airfare purchases during the wet season is a bit disappointing. Pricing remains generally stable throughout the run-up to the wet season, and the bargains that may arise do not last long.
Not surprisingly, business class airfares do produce lower prices, maybe not bargains per se, the farther out you are. If you're going to the Maldives during the dry season and you can purchase your air travel early, then it may pay to do so. Even a trip to the Maldives during the wet season comes at a price. From a low of $8,378 for 2 plus the hotel resort flying in economy to a high of $17,562 in business class, that's a lot of money to spend perhaps months before you actually get to travel. Generally speaking, the farther out you book, the higher the risk you take on. Yet, the farther out you book, the better the value for your travel dollar.
There are hundreds of hotels and resorts throughout the Maldives. From our experience, you can plan to spend about $1,000 per night for a 5 to 7 night stay during the dry season. Think somewhat lower for the wet season. Remember, resort charges and fees are all over the map. Your nightly spend could be lower or it could be higher, much higher. The more special, exclusive resorts easily exceed the $1,000 per night guideline. Spending $3,000 to $5,000 and more per night is not unknown.
We know some people who book during the wet season for cheaper airfares and use that opportunity to book a stay at a nicer hotel resort than might be feasible during the dry season. They'll take the chance the weather won't be disappointing during the travel dates they've chosen during the wet season. It's all about the risk and reward. We finished our travel in early February, the dry season. While we didn't have rain overhead, there was rain around us. It was cloudier than we anticipated, and winds were stronger than we had hoped. Still, it was mostly sunny, certainly dry, just a bit breezy.
The size of a hotel or resort is also a factor. We stayed at a smaller boutique resort with just 49 villas on an island slightly larger than 11 acres. Some island resorts are much, much larger. We knew to expect better service and food where the ratio of staff to guests is high. More people to attend to your needs. Food quality and selection may be an issue.
Lots of things to consider. There is no substitute for doing your research beforehand. Seek out and read posted guest reviews, but also know how to interpret what a reviewer is stating.
Why choose economy? Hey, all 3 classes of service get you to and from Maui. All 3 will provide some level of food and beverage along the way. If getting there and back at the lowest possible price is your goal, then go economy. You be you.
What does premium economy provide? Well, it does depend on the airline. Not all premium economy offerings are the same. Generally, you might get a slightly wider seat. You might get more knee room. You might even get a foot or leg raise, allowing you to partially recline during the flight. And you might have a slightly better class of food and beverage. But if sitting upright works for you and you're not enthused about slight differences in hospitality on board your flights, then the extra $2,000 or more may not be worth it. Note, the most expensive of the premium class seats is almost $4,800 more expensive than an economy seat.
So what does business class provide? Across all of the options shown here, you'll have a lie-flat seat. Never confuse an airline's lie-flat seat with your bed at home. But if you need to recline in order to sleep, then the extra cost may be important to you. The food and alcoholic beverages will definitely be much better in business class. And you won't feel like a liberated sardine escaping the can when you land.
Just remember, whatever class of service you choose, you're going to spend somewhere between 22 and 30 hours in it.
Why is any of this important? Well, it might not be to you. If you could be stuffed in a box and delivered anywhere in the world overnight and not be any worse for wear, then save a lot of cash. However, flying to Europe from the US is a very different experience than flying into Asia.
We wanted to make the most of the first day in the Maldives, and we're getting older to boot. We wrinkle a bit more during air travel, and this was a bucket list item for us. So we opted for business class.
There is one more benefit to flying business class. All of the airfares shown here also provide you with access to an airline lounge at a foreign airport. We flew 2 flights from the US to Mali with one stop in Zurich. So we had access to the Swiss Air Business Class Lounge in Zurich, where we had, get this, a hot shower and a spotless modern bath and a fresh change of clothing, not to mention a darn tasty Swiss breakfast in a calming, serene lounge.
Well, I cannot exaggerate how much better we felt when we boarded that second 11-hour flight. We didn't look or smell like sardines on that final flight to Malé. Still, it's your call. We made ours.
There are pay-per-use airport lounges in most foreign airports. If you're willing to pay $50 per person, you can check into one and possibly get a shower and change into the fresh clothing you've toted all the way from home. The food and beverage service is often good as well.
The total cost of our trip to the Maldives reflects our choices. Your trip is likely to be lower or higher in cost, depending on your choices. More about that in a moment. Unless your airport is a short walk from home, you'll have to pay to park your vehicle at an airport parking lot. We found Uber to be a better bargain, and our vehicle stays safe and dry at home. The Uber charges shown here include all gratuities. We prefer to spend our airport waits in commercial lounges. By choosing to fly business class, 5 of our lounge visits were paid by the airlines on which we flew. 2 of our visits are a benefit of our travel credit card. If you don't fly business class or have a travel credit card that offers this benefit, our visits would have added a minimum of $50 per person per visit, assuming the airport has a pay-per-visit airport lounge. The primary airport in Maui does not. Our airfare was arranged through our travel credit card. The card company claimed they saved us about $1,100 by making the air travel arrangements through their travel service. We also reduced the airfare by another $1,170 by using 117,000 loyalty points we had already earned. Without these 2 benefits, our airfare and total cost would have increased by $2,170. Outbound, we were able to fly direct with 4 stops with approximately 28 hours of flight time. This does not include 9 hours of airport layovers. Inbound took much longer. Why? Flying westbound adds another hour or so to each flight time. We also had a layover in Sri Lanka we hadn't originally planned. Thank you, airline. And we arrived in Zurich too late to catch our next flight segment back to the US. So we were forced to spend 1 night in the Zurich Airport Hotel. We landed a discount rate for the Fushifaru Resort, offered through a popular travel site. We paid for an over-the-water villa during the high season. However, there was an additional daily premium for the days we selected, and we had to reimburse the resort for our round-trip seaplane airfare from Maui to the resort. Breakfast was included in the resort's nightly rate. We elected not to add lunch and/or dinner plans, although we could have done so at a cost of $1,000 to $2,000. Instead, we took our lunch, dinner, and beverages a la carte for a total of $346. The total charge for our trip was $17,727. We did not pay for any food or beverage while flying. These items were included in our airfare and provided at each of the airport lounges we visited.